Hey folks, what's up? My name is Sir Medieval, and today I'll be bringing you a guide slash a build on Warlords. They're the PvP tank class of the game, PvP slash PvE. If you're tired of getting bullied by fighters, then I've got just what you need, okay? This is going to help a little bit in terms of PvP. I was able to survive until rank 1 PvP with this, so hopefully this helps a little bit. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. Gonna be breaking it down. Alright, so let's go ahead and start from the beginning. So a good thing to note about PvP is when you first jump into it as a warlord, your job, you need to know what it is. Your job is to screw up the other team as much as possible. You are getting in there to not really secure kills, though it is a good bonus, but you're in there to dismantle them, okay? It's like guerrilla warfare. You've got to slow them, you've got to keep them on the ground, do whatever you can to ensure that your team can secure those kills and win the game. So a good way to do this is with the build that I'm going to be showing you today. Let's go ahead and open this up, and later on I'll be showing you how it works in PvP as well, just to give you the scenario. But I don't go for leveling up these skills here, but this first one, the Q, is pretty much a filler ability. You can really fill it with whatever you want. You could put explosive bullet in there if you wanted to get a little bit more range, or I could just go with the Q, the regular Q, just to get a little bit more poke, no pun intended. You could even go with the standard W that people use to kind of get an extra knock-up going if you want to as well. But the main important part of it, the meat and bones, is going to be this W right here. Now this one I just go for the middle upgrade. This is mainly for, let me take a look here, and I'm going to have to be translating it as we go. So the middle upgrade is for defense preparation, and what it does, rough translation, is all damage caused by one base hit will be reduced by 20% for 4 seconds. So I believe what that means is you'll take reduced damage by 20% for 4 seconds. But it's not the important part of the ability that you need. It's the instant knock-up. Okay, that's very important. Getting yourself out of tight spaces and just getting yourself in a position where you can CC the enemy constantly is very important in PvP. This is going to help a lot with that. It's going to be your bread and butter. There is a variant of this with this ability right here, where if you were to upgrade it, you could get it to explode. You've probably seen it from Warlords, where you could shove your spear into the ground and you get a massive explosion. Sometimes it's red, sometimes it's purple if they have the lightning upgrade or the fire upgrade. This is a good skill, but it's so slow to cast and sometimes it's very risky. This is the much safer bet to go for if you're in terms of uppercuts. That's why we go with this one. Next one, you definitely want to get this jump leveled up, and I'll show you why a little later. But the counter, number E. Sorry, letter E. Duh. This is the most important one right here that's going to be on the bar, on the top bar at least, because what this does, not only does it give you an extra, like almost a half extra bar of health, but it's really useful for locking the enemy team down. If you got a fast character on the enemy team that's pounding the crap out of you, this helps a lot. You got a destroyer about to cast his whirlwind and start pulling everybody inside and doing a ton of damage. This is what you need right here. Now the upgrades, let me go ahead and explain what these do here. So for the counter spear, the first one that I have is called hard armor. All damage you receive during skill cast is reduced by 30%. Going to be very important. Of course, you want to not take as much damage as possible. This is very useful not just for taking out melee characters, but for ranged characters as well, and I'll get to why in just a second. Next one. This is quick preparations right here. It reduces the cooldown by 12 seconds, but reduces the damage to the enemy by 50%. The reason we do that is we're not trying to damage them with this spell. We're trying to stay alive while trying to get back in the game. Like if you have a fighter that's pounding on you, this is going to be your bread and butter right here. So you need to make sure that you have this up constantly. And the main reason for this is the lightning one. Now, if you don't know, with the Warlord, most of their lightning spell, well, all their lightning spells, whether it's a shield, you know, when you kind of cast your spear into the air, gather lightning and then block it with your shield, you've probably seen that. Or even the explosion thing I was talking about earlier with the lightning upgrade, all lightning will stun your enemy, and it'll stun them for quite a few seconds. So with this counter, what'll happen, you'll put that up, bam, they hit it, you're gonna electrocute them right then and there. Doesn't matter who it is. Okay, they have a high chance of getting electrocuted. It's very important that you secure those few seconds as best you can. Can get an uppercut going, get a slam down, all in those few seconds. You can make sure that you keep them locked down, but you got to make sure to time it right. You got to be facing the right direction, of course. It's got to be at the right moments, but this is a really cool skill to have. Next up on the list is the R ability. This is probably one of the most important abilities in the build as well, on the top bar as well, right under Counter Spear. This skill is very important to be using on the fast-like characters that you have knocked down. Devil Hunters, Fighters, Hawkeyes, you name it. This is going to be a very important skill for that reason. This is what we were talking about earlier with supporting your team to make sure that they secure the kills, doing all you can to make sure that you're hindering the enemy team's success. What the first upgrade does is increases the attack speed, as you can see, by 10%. It's called brisk movement. The second one is the more important one, and you don't need to upgrade this all the way. What the second one does is it's called Earthquake. It reduces their attack speed by 20%, but it also reduces their travel speed by 40%. This is extremely important as well. If you have somebody who's at low HP, for instance, this makes it so that you can easily lock them down. Shield slam, uppercut, they've got nowhere to go. Bam. You've got it unlocked, okay? Make sure you get that ability on your bar no matter what. That's going to be a very, very important thing to have in your toolkit. It's going to prevent a lot of people from doing a lot of stupid stuff to you and your team, okay? Just keep it on there. Next one on the list, bottom list, and now we're going to go with is the A ability, which is Spear Shot. This is going to be your bread and butter for when you have somebody actually knocked down. This is what you follow up with. Now, you can trade this skill for the burst cannon fire. If you upgrade this one, I recommend going with the middle upgrade. If you do burst cannon, this one is scattered everywhere, no longer blows the enemy away. It increases the attack range by 20% and increases the damage by about 30. Well, to monsters, I guess, but should be to players too. I don't know why they don't change that. It could be to players as well, but I go with that one. The next one I go for is the middle one right here. This is called Definite Attack. And what this does is it changes it to a normal skill. That makes it so you don't have to charge it up. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff anymore. And then what you'll be able to do there is you'll be able to spam it, of course, and you won't have to, it'll execute really quickly, essentially. And the last one I recommend is called Concentrated Fire. Round fire right here. This is a 360-degree angle one, as you can see right here. It'll shoot all around you. This one right here will just shoot in front of you 4 times. This is going to be one that is going to tear the enemy's health apart if you have them knocked down. Make sure to use it wisely though. It is pretty slow. That's why I don't have it on this build right now. The one I have on the build is Spear Shot, and the reason for that is because the first one is the brisk movement, attack speed increased by 15%. Second one increases the damage by 25%, which is very important, of course. These other ones, it's basically damage to an immune enemy increases by 40% over an attack. You don't really have to worry about that. Penetration level is increased by 1. The fourth one, though, the third one, sorry. This one is called Firestorm. This makes you attack by rushing 4 meters ahead. The moment you stick it with your spear, it explodes and causes 40% more damage. This also knocks them away, so if they're knocked down already, this is going to knock them out even farther. The reason I use this skill a lot is because you don't need to have them locked down or knocked down. You can actually, if you can aim it right, let's say a fighter's coming at me from the northeast direction, I can just go ahead and boom, pop him right back there, get him out of the fight, maybe make him waste the dodge roll, which is very important, by the way. Getting enemies to waste their dodge is going to be extremely important for locking them down, making sure you can get your CC off, all kinds of stuff like that. Make sure to take note of that too. The next one we've got on our list is the shield charge. If you don't have this as a warlord, you're doing something wrong. You gotta have this in PvP as a warlord. Especially with that uppercut right there, because that's going to allow you to combo that. If you shield charge them, and then you wait in place for about half a second, and I'll show you this, and I do this a lot in PvP, but I'm still perfecting it. Stay there. Boom. Well, aim at them, but still. You can get a double uppercut and make sure that you keep them in the air as long as possible. After you get them in the air, you can do a quick spear shot. You can definitely do a shield slam, which you'll want to do because you can guarantee they're going to be doing a dodge roll right after that. You can end it early if you want to. Bam. Then do a shield slam right then and there. Get them slowed, okay? Make sure you take out their mobility. So now they've wasted their dodge roll. They are slowed by 40%, and their attack speed is slowed as well. Very, very useful. The upgrades we take on this one, number 1. This one, the first one, is hard armor. All the damage done during the rush is reduced by 30%, which can be very useful, as you can imagine. I mean, you're going to be rushing in the midst of combat, so anybody damaging you, you definitely want to reduce that damage as much as you possibly can. The second one is called protective coating. It creates a shield of which is a 15% maximum life force during a dash. Very important as well because it's going to assist against getting CC'd, of course. It's going to assist with taking less damage as you're trying to rush people. If you're in a tight spot, it could save your life essentially if you need to get those few extra seconds before your shield cooldown is back up. Stuff like that. Very, very important to have that as well. The last one is for the uppercut. It's called after making a dash. Well, it's called unfinished attack. After making a dash, he throws up a window, is what it says, dealing 40% damage and floats the target into the air. That's the uppercut essentially. That is going to allow you to get that extra knock up, and then you can basically do whatever you want after that. You can spear shot him, burst cannon, pick your poison. The next one of my more favorite ones, this is useful for PvP and PvE. Now this one right here is called Outcry. Don't need to translate it to know what that is. The first upgrade for this one is Broad Blow. It increases the attack range by 25%, which is going to be very useful, of course. You could put defense preparation on as well if you want to make sure that you've got some real tankiness going on, but honestly you probably won't need it too much. It's up to you on that one. But what this does, increases the range by 25%. The second one is for that protective coating. This one is 30% though. This is very important for you. If you're in a tight spot, you need some health. If you're low on HP, this is going to help keep you alive for sure. The third one is the bread and butter. This is going to help you assist your team in very, very, very many situations. What it does is, in addition to the existing effects, increase attack power and speed of the party members by 30% for 4 seconds. If you're coordinating with the team over voice comms, this could be a very, very useful tool. This could make it to where you tell that fighter to just go ham, like just start smashing their keyboard. They're going to destroy some people with this kind of buff. I've seen some crap happen with this kind of buff. You do this right before somebody does a spirit bomb, for instance, or one of their ults, it's going to do a lot of damage more than likely. Definitely get that. The second one reduces the enemy attack power and speed of movement by 30%. So you could also use this one. It'd be very useful to have as well. This one is also one of those pick your poison type of skills, but it's one you want to have on your bar regardless. You can see how important this one would be. The last one is the jump. The jump has got to be one of the favorite skills. This is going to be one not just for getting in and out of situations, but one that you'll just need to lock the enemy down as well. You like that? Yeah, me too. So the jump, what we have for this one, and you can probably guess what we just did with that upgrade right there. But the first one right here, let me go ahead and get to it. Here we go. So the first upgrade is called Excellent Mobility. It increases the travel distance by 2 meters. You could also take quick preparations. I would actually recommend going with the quick preparations just because, or the direct blow for the increased damage during landing by 15%. Either one of these are fine. I was just using this just because, but I would go with the quick preparations. The second one is very important. I'll explain what each one of these do. Major earthquake. An earthquake will cause in the landing area to reduce the travel speed by 40%, which of course is very useful. That's the earthquake right there. If you're all about hindering the enemy's movement speed, that could be very useful. But, and this one is the lightning one, which you can guess what that does. It doesn't electrocute him though. This is one of the ones that doesn't. So it won't keep him in place, but it will damage on the ground over time. Now what we're looking for is this. What this third one is Shockwave. This one makes it so that it causes an additional 20% damage and it launches them back into the air. This is the bread and butter right here. So if you already have an enemy knocked down, this is what you can use to follow up. Bam. And as you noticed, I jumped twice. So the last upgrade, I'm sure you can guess which one is which. This one is you go 18 meters, you do a huge shockwave, and it does whatever you had previously. Which of course this one is more for looks. It's more eye candy than anything, but if you want to go for practicality, having 2 shockwaves is going to be a lot better than having 1. If you're trying to chase an enemy, this is definitely going to be a bread and butter right here, because with the 18-meter one, of course, you can miss. With this one, you could follow up. This is very good for canceling out certain enemy skills. For instance, if a berserker is trying to whirlwind but missed the first jump, but stepped into the second one, shockwave or something of that nature, very useful indeed. Okay, so make sure to have that on your build as well. We'll see how that works out in the games that we're going to be playing later as well. And now I want to talk about the ultimate skill. So what the ultimate skill does is, first, it brings up a huge shield in a radius, reduces the damage of everybody on your team in it by 40%, I believe, and it restores your shield to full strength. Bam. Not only does it do that, it also stuns the enemy. Any enemies inside the radius of it, it stuns them, and for a crap ton of time too. Like about 3 or 4 seconds, which is useful, especially if you played MOBAs. You know. That's a very, very useful skill. You can only use it once per round. If you're doing 3v3s, it doesn't matter what you're really doing. That's going to save your life in a lot of situations, and your teammates' life as well. If you're trying, I do 3v3s mainly, so for 3v3s, it could really lock an enemy team down, and it could be a huge game changer as well. Okay? And then what you'll want to do with that too is, when you get that full shield, if you didn't have a near full one already, of course your Z ability brings up your shield. That prevents you from getting CC'd. If you're really low on HP, this is something good to throw up to make sure that you stay alive as long as possible, of course. It also gets the enemy team to focus you. It takes their attention away from your team and puts it on you where you want it, because your job is to be in there and be a distraction and cause as much mayhem as you possibly can. Now the X ability is what I call the dunker. The dunker takes up all the rest of your shield. It shields your party members, however, for as long as that thing lasts, and it's very useful because it knocks up the enemies, any of them caught in it as well, and you get a shield on top of that. The reason this one is very important as well is because you could have even a little shield gauge, which, by the way, you get this by hitting people, and just you gain it over time in combat. Even just a little shield gauge can make a difference, and you can actually use the X ability still. This is very useful as well if you're trying to chase people down, especially if they're low HP, because you can go pretty far with the skill, and you're going to see me use this in PvP. It's a really good initiating skill because you get the shield. You can't get CC'd until it's over, basically, and by that time you'll be able to stand up and react pretty quick, and it helps with saving your teammates' lives as well. Okay, and you can't use battle potions in terms of PvP, or any kind of potions and anything like that, so you've got to make the most of what you got. Okay, and without further ado, folks, I thank you so much for watching my my Warlord PvP guide. I hope that this helps you guys out, and not just 3v3s, but 1v1s and maybe even free-for-alls. I'll be honest with you, Warlords kind of have a tough time in PvP unless it's 1v1, just because we don't have a lot in our kit in terms of AoE as much as other teams. We are a support class, like the description says. We are support. We're there to cause havoc for our team. So that's why we specialize in 3v3s, and I highly recommend going